Okay, in this last video for now, I've got the last two problems from the MathXL assignment that I want to look at. So this is problem number 11 of 12 for this week before the exam. I'm sorry, before the quiz. We're going to use this formula. This is our compound interest formula. And we're going to find out how long it takes a $500 investment to earn $2,000 in interest if it's invested at 4% interest compounded quarterly. So there's lots of information that's going on in this particular problem. The $500 investment is how much we start with, so that's going to be our p-value. The interest means that this $500 is going to grow by $200, so it's going to increase from $500 to $700, and that $700 is what we're using as A. Not 200 itself, but again, the principal, or what we started with, is going to grow to a total amount of $700. The R value is 4%, but we'll write that as a decimal instead of a percentage. And we're compounding quarterly this time instead of monthly. And there are only 4 quarters in a year rather than 12 months in a year. So our N value is going to be 4. So if I'm writing this down as a homework problem, I would start with the empty equation first. P times 1 plus R over N to the N times T power. And our ending amount is $700. Remember, this was the 200 plus 500 from the problem screen on MathXL. This p-value is the $500 that we started with. Our R is 0.04 for 4%. And N, in this case, is equal to 4. N is equal to 4 because of the description of this being invested quarterly. So these are the values that I'm substituting. 500 times 1 plus 0.04 divided by 4 to the 4 times t power. So here, again, we've got an exponential equation. And the unknown value is stuck up here in an exponent. So since the unknown value is here is an exponent value, this is a perfect example for us to use a logarithm. Now, before I use the logarithm, I am going to do a little bit of work first because to use a logarithm, we must have the exponential by itself. And right now, we don't have a base number raised to a power, but we've got this multiplication in front of that first. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to divide both sides by 500. By dividing by 500, and I'm not going to simplify this. I'm going to leave this alone. I'm not even going to go to the calculator yet, but 700 divided by 500 is equal to, well, you know what? I'm going to use a calculator to simplify this base right now. 1 plus, I'm going to write this in parentheses here so that it follows the order of operations, 0.04 divided by 4. Well, I could have done that in my head. But 1 plus 0.04 divided by 4 is 1.01. So this exponential base is really just the number 1.01 raised to the 4t power. Now on the left-hand side, we've got a number as well. And you know what? This probably comes out to a nice decimal, so it's worth dividing here. 700 divided by 500 is the same as 7 divided by 5, which is 1.4. So while we're here, we'll go ahead and write this as a decimal as well. And to me, this looks a whole lot nicer because now I can clearly see that I have a base, an exponent, and a result. And if I have a base, an exponent, and a result in exponential form, then I could very easily rewrite this as a logarithm. Log base 1.01 of the number 1.4 is equal to 4 times t. And I can use a fancy calculator to evaluate logarithm base 1.01 of, double check this here, of 1.4. And get a result. Now, I'm not going to mess with this decimal. I'm going to leave that in the calculator for right now. And if I wanted to get this by itself, oops, If I wanted to get this by itself, then the last step would be to divide both sides by 4. So whatever that result from the calculator was, I'll divide by 4, and that's going to tell me what my t value or what the time value has to be for this problem. So again, I'm leaving this number in the calculator, but I'll press divide. It'll take that prior answer with all of its decimals and divide that by 4. And here we have a result of 8.453795. The instructions on MathXL says to round to the nearest tenth, so that's the first decimal place, and I like 8.5 for that result. This 4 gets rounded up because of the 5 next to it. So t is equal to 8.5. But even if we didn't have a fancy calculator like the one I showed on my screen, we can still do this using basic calculators. Log of 1.4 divided by log of 1.01 is what we would evaluate in a simple calculator. And we'll take this answer and divide that by 4, and that too will tell us what t is equal to. So even if we use a simple calculator, let's go ahead and try this out here. 1.4 log divide by 1.01 log. Then you have to press the equal sign on this calculator, and that completes this mini calculation, the log of 1.4 divided by log of 1.01. That result needs to be divided by 4, and again, we see the result 8.5 when rounded to the first decimal point, or the 10th place. So I'm very confident, now that I've done this problem twice, that if I had $500 and I wanted to increase by $200, it's going to take about 8.5 years to do so at this 4% interest. And the calculator and MathXL appreciates that result too. Moving on, last one. This one may look intimidating at first, but it's actually incredibly easy. This formula has been programmed into a doctor's computer because this is the formula used to estimate the normal weight of a boy who's a particular height. So weight W is calculated based on H. So this is just a real world example of exponentials. So here we go. If a boy if a boy is 45 inches tall, has a height of 45 inches, can you determine what the weight of that boy is expected to be? Well, again, this should be incredibly easy because the formula itself is meant to calculate the result. The weight is equal to 0.0, let me double check this here, 0.00186 0.00186 times h to the 2.66 power. Yep. And what we're told here is that we need to find the weight. Weight is still unknown, of a boy who is 45 inches tall. So if we substitute h with 45, we should be able to determine this boy's weight, what a normal weight of a boy who's 45 inches tall should be. And again, we'll go to a calculator to evaluate this. If you've downloaded the TI Inspire, it's super easy to do. 0.00186, parentheses 45, exponent 2.66. And as long as we can enter this expression into the calculator, exactly how we have it written on paper, and if we trust what we've written on paper, then we should be able to trust this result as well. Now MathXL said to round the decimal to the nearest 10th place. So the result off the calculator I'm going to call 46.5 pounds. 46.5 pounds. Now, if you didn't have a fancy calculator, that's perfectly fine. Just make sure that you use the order of operations here. The weight, 0.00186, is multiplied by 45 to the 2.66 power. So make sure that you do the exponent calculation first and then multiplication second. So if I were doing this on a basic calculator, it would look something like this: 45 to the power of 2.66. And if you write this down in between steps rather than leaving it in your calculator, do make sure that you include lots of decimals here. So 24977, see if I can get this to respond here. 24977 point, and by lots of decimals, I mean at least 5 or maybe even 6. So I'm going to say 288296, 288296, and I'll put 1 on there just for extra measure. 961, actually that 1 got rounded up to a 2. So I'll go ahead and include this 2 here, and then I'll multiply that times 0.00186. Some of you may have noticed that I just left that decimal in the calculator without retyping it, and that's really the best approach of them all. But that result off this calculator gives us the same thing, for 46.5 when rounded, 46.5 pounds. So the normal weight of a boy who is 45 inches tall is supposed to be 46.5 pounds. We'll go ahead and enter it into the website and see what they say. And there we go. So hopefully, again, these 3 videos have helped you with the homework this week. Your quiz is going to be very similar to this, with a few fewer questions. I don't think there are 12 questions on the quiz, but they are indicative of what you've seen here this week. So best of luck to you. If you have any questions, please let me know. I am hosting Zoom meetings every night at 7:30 this week. So if you check Schoology for that invite, I welcome you to come in and pop in and ask questions as needed, and I'll try my best to answer them in real time. Good luck.